समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या? समझ में नहीं आया।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
अब समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.
I'm a little bit conflicted as to where to start this story or this episode of Clutter because I can tell you, first of all, that there's been a governance reform, which is a good news story. Every reform has to be celebrated and acknowledged first. There's been a governance reform which has saved 11,000 crores for Government of India. Now, 11,000 crores is not small change, but for Government of India, it's not that much money. It's not something that we should start celebrating right away because Government of India spends nearly 200 trillion rupees in a year. I will give you the precise amounts. So what is 11,000 crores? So that's one highlight. That 11,000 crores has been saved, and I will tell you how, because it's a very virtuous saving, because it's not saving by denying it to anybody. And you know what? Once I'm done with it, I will also be sharing a very interesting and important announcement with you. So please do stay with me till the end. The second headline that I can give you is something that came out in this year's budget and was barely noticed at that point. That is the finance minister, and she spoke out and she said that state governments keep complaining we are not giving them enough money, but there is so much money available in the centrally sponsored schemes, CSSs as these are called, centrally sponsored schemes, which the state governments are not even drawing from and spending fully. How much is that amount? Now it becomes a little bit more serious than 11,000 crores. It is 1,19,000 crores or 1.19 trillion rupees. That much money was available to the states to be spent in these centrally sponsored schemes, but they did not spend. That is the second highlight. I can give you a third highlight. And the third highlight is now there's a system whereby the states don't have to wait. They don't have to plan something under these schemes, then write to the center, keep calling somebody to try and get the money. Money is available on tap. So let's try and understand this. It's a bit like if you run a company, right? Or if you follow a company, or generally if you know the basics of running a business, at least those who know this will understand. Companies usually have a working capital account with a bank. How does that account work? That account works. Bank says that bank makes an assessment of what your incomes are, what your cash flows are every month, and says, look, a percentage of these cash flows, say a bank says you are running a business, 100 crore rupees is available to you in your working capital account or cash credit account. So it's not as if the bank puts that money into your account. The bank would love to do it if there's a collateral, because if the bank puts that money into your account, then the bank starts earning interest on day one. However, that money is available with the bank. You are not paying interest on it. As you need money, you draw from it, you pay interest on that. So many companies would then draw a little bit from this on the payday or a day before the salary day, and then pay back as the collections from businesses come in. So only pay interest for the period for which you've drawn the money. Something like that has happened in this system through a reform, which we call, there will be many acronyms that I will go through and I will read them out for you. So the important thing is the nodal reform in this is something called SNA, which is Single Node Agency. What this has done is that central government makes funds available to states into specific accounts. So every state has to set up a nodal account for each scheme, each of the centrally sponsored schemes. Account might have zero balance, right? Now, in a scheme, suppose the scheme says that the center will give you 70%, state will put in its 30%, its own collateral. So when the state wants to spend the money, it can, I'm oversimplifying it, but it's pretty much like that. The state can write a check to pay out the money. As the state writes a check or as the state makes the allocation or starts spending, the center immediately makes that money available, its share of the money available in that account, and the state makes its own share of the money available as well. And that's how it runs smoothly. But the government has not borrowed the money and put it in your account. So the government is running up interest costs. Remember, Government of India runs on borrowing. If I give you an idea of how much Government of India borrows in a year, you will be astounded. This year, for example, central government of India and the budget has listed its borrowing requirements at 14.8 lakh crores. That is nearly 15 trillion rupees, right? The total central government borrowing at this point is 179 trillion rupees. 179 lakh crore rupees. 179 lakh crore rupees, for simplicity, 179 trillion rupees, right? That is about between 53 to 54% of India's GDP. Then the states also borrow. If you add it all up, it comes to about 82% of India's GDP. So India is a developing country. It's a deficit country. It keeps funding that deficit by borrowing. So when you borrow, you pay interest on this. This year, for example, while 14.8 lakh crore or 14.8 trillion rupees have been budgeted to be borrowed, the total interest payments of Government of India this year is 13.1 trillion rupees or 13.1 lakh crore rupees. Now, also compare this with the overall expenditure of Government of India. Overall expenditure, which means what's been budgeted, is 146.5 lakh crores or 146.5 trillion rupees. I'm giving you these big figures to show, for us to understand that in this system, because money is the system is sloshing with money, but borrowed money. So monies can be borrowed, they can be sitting in many accounts, not being used. But at the same time, these are not monies that I had in my bank account, that Government of India, Nirmala Sitharaman, had in her bank account, in her as in finance, in the exchequer, what's controlled by the finance ministry. This money will be borrowed. So what happens if you borrow just in time? Either you can borrow lump sum and let the money sit there for somebody to use. That is lazy use of money. Anybody who uses money knows that. The other is, all right, when you need the money, you write a check, money will be provided. It's at that moment that I am borrowing the money. So my meter for interest starts running from that point. So 11,000 crore rupees, which has been saved, has basically been saved because every state has now had to set up this single nodal agency for each one of these centrally sponsored schemes, for which a lot of money is allocated by Government of India, because money only comes in there when they really spend it. It's also borrowed by the central government only when money is really spent, because money does not lie lazily unused, borrowed money in your account. That is the interest saved. That comes to 11,000 crores. That's the reason I said this is a virtuous saving. You can save by denying people the money. Finance ministers routinely have to do those unpleasant things by saying, all right, I know that I committed this to you, but I can't do this because my deficit is really coming up, or some other priority has come in for which I have to spend more, so I have to save money here. That is one way of making savings, but that is essential. I'm not saying that's wasteful or that's unnecessary, but that's essential. This is, however, more virtuous because you have saved waste. So that's why that 11,000 crore figure is very important. Second, 19,000 crores, which the states have failed to spend. Now that is a little bit of a scandal, because states are crying all the time that they don't have the money to spend. Center is not releasing money. Now this is a question that came up when I was reading the defense part of this year's budget, because defense forces are always saying that our budget should go up, our budgetary allocation is too low. I myself have joined in that chorus often enough. I've also said that India's defense budget should definitely go above 2% of the GDP and should rise by 0.1% or say 10 basis points every year until it goes to 2.5% of GDP if India has to build a credible military machine to deter all likely aggressors, or now to use the expression that is fashionable, that's been made fashionable by Trump and Trumpians, is to prevent war, because you have to have strength to prevent war. However, this year's budget on defense had a little bit of a shocker, because it showed that last year, in the last year's budget, defense forces returned 13,000 crores. 13,000 crores. That is almost $2 billion unspent. They had this money available, but they were not able to spend it, because basically the system of spending, the system of defense acquisitions is sclerotic. It's sclerotic because in the pipeline or in the artery, the spending artery or acquisition artery, there is cholesterol. This can be bureaucratic cholesterol. This can be cholesterol of indecision. This can be cholesterol of confusion. Do I want it? Do I not want it? Right? I leave it for tomorrow. In that, do I want it? Do I not want it? How do I do it? 13,000 crores was returned. How much could the forces have bought with 13,000 crores? Also remember that all of these budgetary allocations are lapsable, right? To make anything non-lapsable, defense has been demanding, please make our allocations non-lapsable. So if I'm not able to spend this year, that money sits in my account, so I can spend it the next year or next year, so I can then keep adding up. But no, that is not the constitutional scheme of things. For that to happen, Finance Commission has to take a call, then they have to make a recommendation, and then a constitutional amendment has to be carried out to make any fund non-lapsable. So anything that you haven't spent last year will then lapse, and that helps the finance minister get a better figure for her overall deficit as a percentage of the GDP. But that is not the idea. You have to do it by controlling wasteful expenditure. This idea that I will not spend money allocated for good schemes which I need, the states need, which people need, by not spending them, I will help with deficit, is a stupid idea, if I may say so. So what this system has done, and the finance minister spoke about it in her budget speech, but it wasn't taken that much note of because the budget day, so much else is happening, we also missed it. In fact, this has only come up now. The finance minister, Nirmala Sitharaman, was speaking on the 49th Civil Accounts Day last Saturday in New Delhi. And there she said, and I quote from her, that just-in-time fund release, that's what I explained to you just now, that just-in-time fund release has made sure we don't borrow much more than we need. We have already shown through one concrete measure through which we know that if we manage just-in-time release, I don't need to borrow and keep borrowing just to get them parked somewhere. So that's how that 11,000 crore savings taken place. But the important thing is this has also exposed the states' failure to spend. Because the states also, just as I use sort of rude language about the defense forces, rude in the sense that I said there is cholesterol in the spending artery or the acquisition artery of the defense forces. Obviously, the state governments also have similar problems. That's why they've not been able to spend this money. Now, a couple of things we need to pay attention to. First of all, if we want to see the schemes for which this money was provided and where states have not been able to spend it. So there are lots of schemes that come from the center. I'm not listing all of them. That will take half an hour. But I don't have to list all of them. Just 6 schemes that you are very familiar with. I'm very familiar with. All of us are familiar with. And all of these affect our quality of life. Just 6 schemes account for more than 50% of this lapsed amount. That is 1,19,000 crores or 1.19 trillion rupees. And what are these schemes? Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin, 10.9%, almost 11%, right? That means 11% of 1,19,000 crores is how much? Should be about 12,000 crores or so. That money that was available to be used to build housing for villagers, poor villagers in different parts of India, that's not been utilized. That's just been wasted. It's lapsed, see you later. You will not see it later. Now you wait for next year's allocations. Saksham Anganwadi and Poshan. This is for addressing the malnourishment problem for children. 9.3% has been left unspent, almost 10,000 crores. Your heart should bleed looking at this. Amrut Urban Rejuvenation Mission. All of us cry that our cities are rotting, but who has the money to do anything with our cities? And this is a mission for 500 cities in India, 9.1% uncollected. All these percentages are percentages of the 1.19 trillion, 1,19,000 crores. So you can do your mental math right away. It's very easy. Swachh Bharat mission, hello, 8.7% unspent, nearly 9.5 to 10,000 crores unspent on Swachh Bharat mission. PM Gram Sadak Yojana, building of rural roads. Every state should be crying, saying, give me more money, give me more money. I have to build roads in my villages. Roads get me votes. It improves the lives of my people. No, 6.9%. How many crores is that? That's about 7,500 crores. Jal Jeevan Mission, 6.8%. Again, about 7,500 crores unspent. So see this graphic, this tells you a very sad story. The important thing is, once you bring in the reform that makes all this data available and it's real time, then you know who to hold accountable. So this has multiple benefit what has happened. One, money saved on interest, but I would still call that a collateral benefit of a good administrative reform. Second, given the scales of money involved, and I will give you some idea of the scales as we talk about the debt that government of India has, given the scales involved, it's the efficient management of money and accountability. That is the main gain from this reform. That 11,000 crore is a bonus on top of it, just a cherry on the cake. Number three, this lowers wastage across the board and also brings in greater transparency on centrally sponsored schemes. Because, in fact, what I would have liked to do is, to take it forward, I would have liked to see which state has failed to use the money allocated to it under which scheme. Now, I can give you the data on which scheme. All that data I have from TCA Sharad Raghavan, who covers the economy for us. What I cannot give you is a state-wise breakup, for the simple reason that the platform that is supposed to have the state-wise breakup, that is broken, that is not functioning, and that is the website. See it on your screen. That is the website called cga.nic.in. This is a website of the Controller General of Accounts, CGA, under the Department of Expenditure. That website is not working, which I must say is a bummer and not a pleasant surprise. So I saw it. I hope it gets online soon, and when that happens, we'll be able to give you this granular data as well. Most likely, the usual suspect, Sharad Raghavan, will do it. Now, look at some larger figures. Now, before we go to some larger figures, let me share some acronyms for you, because I've used some I have explained. SNA, I told you, single nodal agency, that each state has to set up. Each state for each scheme. In fact, as part of this reform, Finance Minister also mentioned that there were 15 lakh accounts, 15 lakh bank accounts. Hold your breath. These were 15 lakh accounts held by various state governments for various schemes. 15 lakh. When I saw that number, I thought maybe these are those lapsed zero balance accounts under the Jandan scheme or something, because she said that 15 lakhs have now been consolidated into 4,500 accounts, right? Even now, it looks like a lot of accounts. Maybe it will come down in future, but these accounts have been consolidated. So all this money which was scattered around in all these accounts, or which was in demand in all these accounts, you can imagine what a management or governance challenge it was. That's been consolidated. Again, it's all been consolidated because a system has been built. A system has been built to provide this just in time. What is the system? So first of all, become familiar with something called SNA Sparsh. SNA, I told you, single node agency. Sparsh in Hindi. It's the Hindi short form of the Hindi description, Hindi name of the scheme, which is Samyochit Pranali Shighra Hastantran, or in English, real-time system of integrated quick transfers. This rests on a software system. That software system is PFMS or Public Financial Management System, because that system then keeps track of who wants what, where money has to be provided, and this system of SNA state governments have set up, and Sparsh is the immediate, Shigr, immediate, Hastantaran is transfer or handing over of money. So this is the system on top of which this reform sits. I will also share with you Sharad Raghavan's story on this, and there he's quoted Radhika Pandey, who's our columnist and also associate professor at National Institute of Public Finance and Policy, NIPFP, and she says, and I quote, "The main benefit of the system is that it allows the disbursement of money only when there is actual need for it. Earlier, money used to sit idle in state governments' bank accounts. Now that is no longer the case." Of course, there is also a flip side to it, because this money used to sit in banks, almost always public sector banks. So they also did lazy banking because they had this easy money available with which they could play. In fact, because of this now, because this free float money is not available, RBI has also had to work extra hard, she says, to provide more liquidity in the system. All of these are sort of virtual outcomes of this reform. But now, before I let you go, I have to share some more data points with you. I told you the schemes in which the states have majorly failed to spend money. But look at Government of India's debt. If you can save 11,000 crores, it's not small change even for a government. If you can save that kind of money just by better cash flow management, right? In some state central government schemes, this is not all of the spending of Government of India. I told you all of the spending of Government of India is 146 lakh crores. That's the budget for this year, or 146 trillion rupees. But if you see the debt of this central government, right, see the amounts and see this chart. This tells you how debt has risen. So 2020-21, the debt suddenly went up. Debt suddenly went up by 17.6% because we know that COVID came and government didn't have so much income. Economy had nearly come to a standstill, so government borrowed more. So borrowing went up by 17.6% that year to 107 trillion rupees. Next year by another 17.4%. Second wave of COVID came now and lockdowns happened again. So 125.7 trillion. Next year, slowed down a little bit, 142.5 trillion, but with 13.4% increase. But again, picked up in 23-24, also election year, so that always has that problem. Always watch election years for government spending. It went up by 17% to 166.8 trillion rupees. But this year, however, it's only gone up by 7.7%, which means it's now sitting at 179.6 trillion rupees. So that's the kind of money that government already is sitting on, which is borrowed on all our behalf. Right? So all of us are indebted to that extent. So any cash flow management that brings in more efficiencies is a big governance reform. Now, another bit of reform similarly has been carried out through a system called TSA, which is Treasury Single Account. Because Government of India has many autonomous institutions and bodies which are allocated funds. What's an autonomous body? Say All India Institute of Medical Sciences, an IIT, all central universities, central institutions, Indian Council of Agricultural Research, and so many other bodies, IIMs. There are 488 of them. And a lot of money is allocated to them. So earlier also, money would be allocated, it will be sent, will sit in their accounts and it will be sent. For them also, an SNA kind of system has been built. So each one has opened an account where as and when money is needed, as and when a check is written, I'm simplifying it, money becomes available on tap. So government is not borrowing money first and keeping it there, and government is now saying that by bringing in this reform, another 15,000 crore has been saved. This is called Treasury Single Account. And now this done, it's my turn to take 1 minute of time to share some news with you. We've been talking about creating the print merchandise. Innovative, the print merchandise available to all, also available at a discount to our paid subscribers. I wish there are many more of them and number keeps growing. And also members on our YouTube channel. So those of you who have badges, who have memberships, this discount is available to you also. So what have we produced? You will see these on your screen, and you will also see these listed under the description of this video and going ahead under all our videos. So our merchandise collection, this features at this point to begin with 4 product categories: mugs, hoodies, t-shirts and tote bags. See them on your screen. Each design is inspired by properties of the print, including cut the clutter, I apologize to you, politically correct, the decasing dust, and great speeches. Great speeches is a simple but innovative and brilliant idea, if I may say, because we've had so much politics and democracy in independent India that so many great leaders have made incredible speeches in parliament and elsewhere. Now, most of those are lost. If you're a researcher, you can find them, right? But most of those are lost in our ordinary lives, day-to-day lives. So every week we pull out one and publish it over the weekend. We publish the full speech, some details, and also Zoya Bhatti, my colleague, does a video based on it. So you should check those out. However, and 5 iconic Indians who made an impact that we still feel. So please do check this out. And remember, if you're a subscriber who's paid us any amount at any time, and if you are a member on our YouTube channel, a badged member on the YouTube channel, you just have to write an email to the address that you see on your screen. That will be logged in, and you will also be entitled to your discount. And remember, this is only just the beginning. There will be many more products as we go ahead. And if you have any ideas, please do let me know. In fact, one of these products is now sitting with me. Usually I have a mug that says, because politics matters, but this is a Cut the Clutter mug as well.